All right, though, we got a react coming in from Space Tomato. Star Citizen's 323 new locations are the start of a huge change. I'm going to agree with the title here. They're a start. They're a start, but it's hard to see. Here's the link to the video. It is hard to see the future of them outside of the start for right now. And this is a feature that's been in development for a really long time. So let's see what he's got to say, what he's got to show.
Distribution centers are meant to house raids, roads, and reputation, running missions, attacking corporate bases, and participating in various forms of gameplay. These new ground locations are meant to concentrate all the gameplay Star Citizen has to offer in central locations around star systems.
Like, I don't think we're getting raids in 323, right? And then we don't have any of the cargo missions in 323 currently. So I feel like a lot of the stuff, the unique stuff of distribution centers, we just don't get to see.
Mining, cargo hauling, combat, stealth, and possibly more. But what we're getting in 3.23 is only tier 1 of what we previously knew to be a major new location known as underground facilities. But what happened to those impressive structures that were mostly underground and we mostly saw in concept? And will
they're there. So, correct me, I don't know if the guys are here that I usually play in Evo, but we fell through the ground. They're there. The parts that he's showing now are in the game.
These new locations eventually offer more of that subterranean.
And there's ways to get to them through the little sneaky vents and stuff.
In gameplay. Today, I'm going to show you how distributions came to be, what new gameplay options they'll offer in 3.23 in the future, and how they encapsulate the move from tech demo to actual game. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk.
We finally get to realize our dream and become mole people.
Can we switch to player one,
Your
please?
dream.
There we are.
Jesus Christ. This was 2018, dude. This was the beginning of server meshing in the next year or so.
To understand the purpose of these distribution centers, we need to return to 2018. Currently, and since...
But this was one of the best Citizen Cons in terms of the content that they showed in the demo was in the game very shortly after that. Similar to what they're trying to do now.
2018.
All lie? No, 2018 was one of the, at least visually, was one of the least egregious in terms of the Citizen Cons that we had seen in the
past. Our main ground locations and really the only place for reliable FPS combat were underground facilities. Insane. These locations were made literally as a multi-room FPS test location geared around a single mission at CitizenCon 2018.
Let's talk about the original underground facilities. Now, the problem was we made these originally for the CitizenCon presentation demo, and the time we had wasn't enough to kind of take the location where we wanted it to be. Now,
the time we had wasn't enough. It's 2024. You had all that time between then and now.
It kind of fits the current purpose. It's fairly small in scale. It gives a multi-room layout opportunity for FPS combat, but we always knew we wanted it to be able to scale, small, medium, large, to accommodate maybe 60 minutes of gameplay time per location.
Told you. It was work that went to good use, but just like the interaction system, the star map, EVA system, the HUD, and the mobiGlass, which were all added to the game in their current form back in 2018's 3.0 patch, ground locations will be seeing a
2017, no?
Big upgrade in 3.23 as well. This upgrade to underground facilities has been in the works for some time now. In 2022, the team introduced us to a more functional and approachable version of UGFs. These locations were meant to house many different types of gameplay, not just the FPS combat that players have had to rely on almost entirely since 2018 for...
I'm sure he's going to touch on it too. Not just different types of gameplay, but different types of gameplay at the same time for different types of people, which everybody is kind of freaking out and is scared about. And again, because the missions aren't working in 3.23 yet, the biggest fear from all the players about distribution centers has not been realized yet of, is this something I should be afraid of? Is this an issue or is it not? Nobody has been able to find out yet.
Basically any ground gameplay. Now, mining, cargo hauling, social, and even engineering-focused gameplay would have another place to live. And they would be in more believable locations that functioned as somebody might expect and maintained the branding that makes sense for the system you're in. These underground facilities were made up of 4 different zones. The initial above-ground area, the elevator transition areas that will take you down to the subterranean levels, the technical
Those elevators are in.
areas that drive and
Unless they've been removed for Wave 1. They were in.
maintain the facilities, which are all located underground, and Zone 4, the exposed portion that connects to underground networks where mining might be more common.
I don't think this is there,
While
though.
the initial ground location is expansive and offers way more real estate than anything outside of cities,
Yeah, non-functional, though. You have to, like, fall through them. But the under, like, where the elevators go, there's something there.
it's the underground portion that offers
Yeah, I get lost too easily. I mean, you guys watched me going through distribution centers yesterday or whatever. I get lost.
the true scale. Not only can underground
LVG says caverns aren't. Yeah, it's just the surface stuff. But what I was saying is that we found even the below surface stuff in Evo because we fell through. So
locations be better compartmentalized,
Uber Nerd, thank you.
but the vast amount of service corridors, civilian and vehicle paths, technical rooms, and other locations will provide enough space for players to run missions and play the game for hours without ever leaving. For the most part, though, these initial locations are meant to provide 10 to 60 minute blocks of gameplay that can scale and move in and outside of the facility. Much later,
I think again, I showed it to you guys as best I could. So far I don't see any actual gameplay footage from Tomato here, but outside of CIG stuff, the sections of the distribution centers that are incredibly spread out, these little satellite bases things that are just outside of them, I think are the things that intrigue me the most. Because when they say that we'll spend hours there, or there's an hour of content here, I don't know if I believe that just yet. We'll have to see. But when I do see the wide distance that these distribution centers actually spread out to, flying ships back and forth between these little satellite sections and the actual main section and so on and so forth, seems like it could be a thing, which is kind of cool.
down the line, these will also be host to what Star Citizen wants to feature as raids. Opportunities of high risk and rewards that would see players infiltrating the location, stealing goods, and getting out. But this underground facility...
I mean, we're getting little hints of raids with things like Security Post Korea and stuff. I really want to see Security Post Korea meet its full potential. It's Security Post Korea, sadly, came at like just the wrong time. All right, Uber Nerd, thank you again. Oh, well, get well as well. Like Security Post, the updates to it are awesome, but it came just before the cargo refactor. So like this is what Security Post Korea could have been at a small, like obviously a smaller scale with the cargo refactors. Everything they say about raids, right? Break in, get some stuff, get out, high intensity, lots of defense.
Facility rework we were shown in 2022 did not materialize as expected. While it appears these locations are still the goal, our current UGFs will remain, and the locations being added, distribution centers, will not feature an underground, at least not yet. Essentially, these DCs are the Zone 1 out of 4 that we expected from the new underground facilities, the Tier 1 of 3 of those facilities we saw in 2022. This leaves us with the questions about how UGFs will be developed, and how much of that 2022 concept still exists.
All of the 22 concept still exists. We've seen it. We've seen it in Evo. It exists. How much of it makes sense for the game that they're actually working towards? here's the other thing. Like, we were talking about the marketing boogeyman the other, like an hour ago, right? There's another boogeyman that I think is way worse, and it's the art department. That is the boogeyman. That's the actual boogeyman that I think some people consider marketing as well, which I don't think is correct. There's this boogeyman that gets to decide that visually it's beautiful, but functionally there's nothing there. Sorry, LVG. You know it. Come on. You know we love that things are beautiful, but I walk around the distribution center and I just see static. And I don't see as much of the gameplay implications. It doesn't feel like level design is and this is just an opinion, but it doesn't feel like level design gets the priority over visual, like it's beautiful, right? It's almost like the way it looks is more important than the way it plays. So like running through them, visually they're incredible. They look like a Tarkov map, right? There's shit everywhere and there's cover all over the place, but then nothing else really is fitting with it yet. And maybe it's just because there are no missions there. I don't know what, but I look back to things like the settlements, right? What you're saying would make the gameplay team the issue? Maybe. I don't know how, because art does the job. Okay, so here's, for the people that are disagreeing, here's what I'm trying to say. As far as I'm aware, every other game company in the world, this location will be in gray box. All of the mission design will happen then. Everything will be designed around gameplay at that stage, which they did show us, right? There's a bunch of ways to get in and get out. Like, these are supposed to be the prime example of what you're supposed to do. But as they've come in, I'm just personally struggling to see that element, right? They sold this on us at both Citizen Cons, that they were very much engaged with level design and the gameplay teams on what needs to be there. I've struggled to find what needs to be there yet, and I think that's simply because the missions might not be there. But one thing about Star Citizen, again, is there's stuff everywhere and you can't interact with it very much. So these are the ones where I'm like, I just see them visually right now, and I can't see the gameplay at them just yet. Like, I don't know, refineries, for example. Try to find the inside of one of these refineries. I couldn't get inside. It was all pipes and shit everywhere to make it appear like it was a refinery, but none of the refinery gameplay is happening there. And this is gameplay that already exists. So at the moment, we don't see it because none of the features are in. What I'm saying is it doesn't feel like the art design was made with the features in mind. Does that make sense? Like, if you go look in the main cargo area of a distribution center, it's all static cargo pieces that none of us are going to interact with. It is made to look like a busy cargo area, but it doesn't function as one. And that may not be possible. So this is something that, like, I saw LVG make a comment like they were mad about what I'm saying. What I'm kind of reaching out for here is to understand better the process and why everything makes sense. Because again, I'm just a player. I go there, there's nothing to do, and I'm looking around and nothing is has actual function. So I'm just curious more than anything. I'm not mad, I'm not upset. I'm just trying to understand. That's all. Through this conversation. But anyway, let's
While we aren't answering those questions right now, we can look deeper at what players will actually get in the next update.
Yeah, it's just so many just assets, but static assets, right?
Distribution centers, or DCs, while large, are pretty straightforward structures in their design. They will feature several areas. The first is made up of
LVG says they're not mad, they agree 100%. Usually the level design, white box, art, GB. I'm not sure what GB is. I can't speak for missions and level design, though. Yeah, totally understand. It's just one of these things where I can't feel it yet, so I don't understand it. And hopefully, through all this, I'll be able to feel it. But we'll see.
2 main wings on the outside,
box.
both featuring 2 landing pads, a hangar, and 2 cargo elevators that can be used to load freight. We'll have security doors leading inside the structure, and all that outdoor space.
Like, look, this is the refinery I'm talking about. Look at this space. None of what you're seeing is functional. None of what you're seeing is functional. So as a player of Star Citizen, you know that every bit of this is taking up my frame rate, the server frame rate, all of this. You know what I mean? So for me, my argument here is if you are going to go this far, you gotta add some function to this. Because if you are going to make it more difficult to make the game, as the art of the game always has up to this point, planets, tech, all this stuff has taken the game and pushed it back years, while simultaneously pushing it forward years as well, in terms of like visuals and all that other stuff. If you're going to do this, you gotta make something like this functional and playable. And guys, all you do at this location at the distribution centers is run around. You know what I mean? So this is the example of what I'm talking about at the distribution centers, that you just go here and you're like, what was the point of this other than to sell the fact that it's a refinery visually? What's the point? My only guess is that maybe these are very similar to the Elliott's blow up the fuel refinery things that we've seen in the past. Maybe we do that. So that's the issue for me. Like, these doors don't open currently. There's some other doors in this area, I believe. Maybe they will. So, dude, let them get the DCs in, and then we will see missions for it. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Is we are struggling to get the DCs in because they're these huge, large things. I just don't get how you can argue against the point that I'm making here. This entire location, all of these things serve no purpose. And what mission would be here? When you look at this, what mission would be here? Somebody in chat said, tag, you're it. Right? Killing a few NPCs. Looks amazing. Right? What I'm saying is, put the content in and then design the beautiful... These guys are the best artists in the business. Put the content in for each location and then beautify it. They're gonna make it beautiful no matter what. That's my argument here. That's it. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. And I don't know how you can argue against that. These guys will hit home runs no matter what. No matter what. Lars says, without breaking NDA here, when I was assigned to Korea, we obviously had to redo the interior because it didn't fit gameplay needs we had. We had to request so many things to be redone from old SPK to make it playable. Yeah, but I mean, that is an entirely different situation, Lars, because old SPK was 10 years old, right? In this case, we're designing new things that may have to get redone later. If this location wants to have gameplay at it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe they just open up the interior and everything is done inside there. So for the person who said, hey, just let them get the distribution centers in and then add gameplay, to some extent it seems like that they're giving themselves room to do that. I'm just arguing you can have every part of this opportunity, like every part of this place, an opportunity for gameplay if it was designed in the first place first, because the art team's going to hit a home run 100% of the time. When haven't they? They're literally legends, right? But we're allowing, because they're legends, we're allowing them to do it first. Yes, like you can actually have your cake and eat it too. And I think that's what Star Citizen fans don't understand, is that you could have had your cake and ate it too in these cases. Like, what is the only thing that they could do for gameplay here at this specific location is add a few loot boxes around. You kill some NPCs and loot them. That's fine. But what about engineering? What about actual refining? What, like, there's a million things that can be here, right? It's also not a good idea for our team to work around the gameplay team. It should be a collaborative effort. I think that's not coming through very clear. That's exactly what I'm saying, is they work hand in hand. But the gameplay has to take precedence because it's a video game, right? That's just my feeling, where the art is clearly taking precedence over everything. When you just look at this, that's all you have to say. Just look at all of the assets on the screen. It's insane.
That provides more room for mission areas like mercenary and investigation missions.
That was the longest pause of all time, and don't
the
regret
building
it.
lobby and adjacent rooms directly inside will be available to you once you land on the outdoor pads. These spaces will be used for additional interior missions, meeting with NPCs, package drop-offs, and of course where mission givers will likely give you some more narrative-based missions.
In Evo, my friend snuck into this area. Every time I tried to snuck in, I got stuck and I could never get in.
Below this lobby area is the main body, where the warehouse will be. While this does look a bit like the early cargo warehouses we saw in UGFs back in 2022, they are a bit different. But these will also feature 2 underground side roads adorned with various rooms that you can use, cafeterias, work areas, security checkpoints, and other facilities you might expect at a big corporate factory. This is largely what we'll be getting with our first DCs.
Yes.
The structured gameplay options we will see at these locations are based on a 2-axis graph determining overall player behavior.
Oh my, Tomato, you are not using Tony Z. You are not using Tony Z as a reference, are you? Come on,
aggressive,
bro.
lawful, unaggressive.
He's not, though. He's using the ISC conversation that they had. It's just hilarious to see Tony Z come up in any relevant conversation these days, because we all know the man's got to be gone, like, at this point.
Lawful, aggressive, unlawful, and...
Because they know we love to hear him talk, so why wouldn't he be on camera? You know what I mean?
And unaggressive, unlawful players. Aggressive lawful players will typically receive distress beacons from distribution centers under attack, and the players will be tasked with making their way to the location, finding the attacking force in the battle with the defenders, and helping to clear them out. The unaggressive lawful players will be more interested in things like cargo.
I just want to do this, chat. That's all I wanted to do. The entire Evo cycle, all I've wanted to do is this, and I don't have it.
Cargo hauling at these locations. Most unaggressive players are also not really interested in defending themselves during those cargo runs, especially not from other players. So this will be an interesting mix when it comes to these locations. As I've mentioned, these players will also eventually have more industrial activities at these locations, like engineering and mining.
Yeah,
for the aggressive, unlawful players, things are pretty straightforward. You can attack and infiltrate the area, fighting your way through by ship and on foot.
The amount of people in the Twitch chat right now who don't know who Tony Z is so telling. It's insane.
Sometimes you'll be after a target, and sometimes you'll be trying to steal some goods. While these would be more mission-based activities we're talking about now, sandbox-style gameplay where you just approach one of these locations will unfold pretty similarly based on reputation. These centers will be split into friendly, hostile, and neutral locations, with hostile locations attacking any player who approaches, no matter what their reputation. This is a bit of a...
As far as Evo currently, in today's understanding, you can go to the lawful ones, but the unlawful ones, you're dying instantly because there's this weird bug where you're getting hit with like invisible lasers and stuff. I don't know if that was fixed in today's build that I'm going to play now, but
a weird archetype for a location, but I look forward to seeing how it's explained by lore. The friendly locations otherwise will be equivalent to a rest stop space station, meaning they will feature a green zone to protect non-aggressive players from getting into fights, and also many defenses like missiles and turrets that will attack crime stat holders if they come within the area. What this splitting up of distribution centers means is that at the current state of development in the game, that reputation system that we're meant to rely on to dictate what can and can't be done at certain locations is not advanced or fully featured enough to offer the necessary protection for players who just don't want to do those things. These armistice zones and the ones you see around some other locations are meant to be removed, and security systems will be updated to target and subdue players based on their reputation with the faction. Additionally, in safer systems like Terra, you can expect a wider range of proactive measures to stop players from getting into trouble. While faction-based hostility is being added to 3.23 and
probably one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle being added to 3.23. We'll see what it ends up like. I don't think you're gonna feel it the way you want to feel it in 3.23, but it's the start of easily the most important thing.
certain branded locations and groups will react differently to you when you arrive. The structured green zone system still existing means reputation and security have a long way to go before citizens really feel the training wheels come off. But finally, there is the unlawful, non-aggressive missions, which are essentially stealth infiltrations of the same locations.
These are the biggest meme in Star Citizen history. These fake stealth missions with AI that do not respond to anybody.
This will be heavily dependent on stealth improvements we've been reading.
Where is Nix and Levski? I think they're at CitizenCon. The way they're talking about CitizenCon, Interstellar, things like that. There's no way they're only talking about Pyro at CitizenCon. And we know from the past, because they showed Pyro 48 times for 48 years in a row, we've been jumping to and from Pyro when we know Pyro never existed. They can easily make up these star systems without them being fully featured and jump to them in a demo. So my guess is we're going to see a little bit of Nyx and maybe a little bit of somewhere else at CitizenCon. It's just the way they seem to be sharing it. As far as the Star Citizen side, I think most of us probably agree that it's going to be Squadron 42 focused, though.
Reading about in monthly reports and have seen at CitizenCon this year and also in some
Cat Girls in the Verse when? All right, you're going to need a 24-hour timeout. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Man.
Previous demos that didn't never come to fruition. But will players still get a crime or reputation change from killing a character if nobody is around to see it? And how well will AI detection actually work when you're sneaking around? This one will be a curious one to watch. And while Green Zone's reputation and other consequences will eventually play a big part in creating order at these more public locations, there is a little bit of sense of chaos to this first iteration of distribution centers. Star Citizen is starting to show good signs of focusing more on the game than the engine. But there's still a distinct sense that these locations are very much here to be tested and proven out so that they can be dialed in for the actual game sometime later on. We're making major steps in 2024, specifically in 3.23, but there's still clearly a long way to go before it's the full game experience many are after. These locations are going to make a big impact as the first truly large locations we've seen in a long time. But there's still much more to see when more gameplay comes online, and the next tier.
See, I feel like the impact is so low. Like, they are huge locations, but I feel like the impact is, like, incredibly minor. And the biggest impact it's going to have is on the server frame rate for the moment, because they are largely visual from what we can tell right now, and that's it.
Tiers of these locations introduce subterranean facilities, raid activities, and even the possibility of commandeering your own org distribution centers.
Right? So what they really show is what they could be. And Star Citizen has always been what it could be. Like, the planets are huge. You know? Okay. We're still kind of finding out what the planets could be. This is a big piece of that puzzle, is distribution centers, cities, towns, settlements, right? And starting to build out the content on an individual planet when we start getting more things like server meshing, stuff like that. But yeah, it's very hard to visualize it until we have it a bit more. And I think 3.23 is, largely going to be not as big of a patch as they are making it perceive from a gameplay changing standpoint, but it is like the hugest quality of life patch and more Star Citizen showing potentially what it could be instead of Like, it's not becoming what it could be in 323. It's showing more that potential of what Star Citizen always could be is achievable. I think foundational is a good way to say it fair, yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. It's a couple weeks late because of a recent move to Turkey and subsequent disaster we found at our home as we got back, but I'm happy to be back up to making content and should be back to regular videos from here on. If you want to learn more, I'll link you some info down below. It's a big year for Star Citizen, and there are a lot of what-ifs surrounding all these new features. This development of distribution centers,
like their house got really messed up,
is a very good example of Star Citizen's development. Pursuing a goal, developing new features to target that goal, and moving forward with the choice that makes the most sense. These locations were best suited to complement UGFs rather than replace them. And so while these older bunkers that were supposed to move on are sticking around, they likely have plans for those smaller locations as well. If you want to stay up to date on
that is, I don't know how you follow this project this long and think that they're going to go back and fix something. Like, that's the one thing. Some people are so much more, I envy them because they are so much more naive isn't the right word, but in a lot of ways it is, because history says otherwise. Optimistic is the right word. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. The fact that you think that they're going to go back and at any point in the near future and redo the smaller underground bunkers, I just don't. I wonder if that's even on the list for a 1.0. Probably, but it's probably one of the last things. You know? So I don't know, but yeah. I misclicked. Good thing he has chapters, so I know exactly where we were.
Thank you for watching this video. It's a couple weeks late because of a recent move to Turkey and subsequent disaster we found at our home as we got back, but I'm happy to be back up to making content and should be back to regular videos from here on. If you want to learn more, I'll link you some info down below. It's a big year for Star Citizen, and there are a lot of what-ifs surrounding all these new features. This development of distribution centers is a very good example of Star Citizen's development. Pursuing a goal, developing new features to target that goal, and moving forward with the choice that makes the most sense. These locations were best suited to complement UGFs rather than replace them. And so while these older bunkers that were supposed to move on are sticking around, they likely have plans for those smaller locations as
What's happening? Hello, YouTube? What? Guys, I literally have fiber. What is this? What is this?
channel Space Tomato plays, and we started to upload that were supposed to move on or sticking around, suited to complement UGFs rather than replace them. And so while these older bunkers that were supposed to move on are sticking around, they likely have plans for those smaller locations as well. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with Star Citizen, consider subscribing here and like the video if you enjoyed it.
I get 30
But if you're
views
looking for
even
more
on YouTube,
gameplay
yeah.
perhaps, I just started my new channel Space Tomato Plays, and we started uploading some of my gameplay from streams, but I'll also be putting some cinematic narratives there, so if you're into that, check it out.
Cool.
And if you're looking for a Star Citizen podcast looking at topics like the hype of 2024, the view of Star Citizen from the outside, or just an update on upcoming ships, my channel Space Tomato 2 has you covered. Finally, if you'd like to support us in making this content, want to get some exclusive higher quality videos, and maybe your referral code on our randomizer under each video, you can become a supporter on Patreon or YouTube. Whatever you decide, I hope you
4 channels. I mean, you guys that don't make YouTube content wouldn't understand. I have my main channel, my React channel, my podcast channel. I have a Clips channel and a Plays channel. I have 5. I don't post on the Clips or the Plays channel, though, because I'm one man and I can't handle it all. But it's how YouTube works.
You learned something in this video.
You just got to blame
and I'll
YouTube
catch you
for
in
that.
the next.
I can't post 5 videos a day on one channel and have YouTube serve those to you. But I can post 1 video on 5 channels, and those will get served to you. That's why. Does Tomato have a team? Tomato has the strongest team you can possibly have. It's him and his wife. That's the team. And if you should check out some of their things. They do like vlogs and stuff. They have like work meetings. It is so cool. They are an inspiration. It's awesome. Yeah, they're an absolute inspiration for me, for sure. Like, me and Emmy got to sit down and try, and I need some help making a website. She's way stronger at that stuff than me, you know? So, yeah, they are a power couple, exactly. So, yeah, that was Space Tomato's video. And they're huge, but I just don't know how impactful they're going to be in 323 just yet. But man, do they show the potential for the impact that they can have in the future, I think. Yeah, I linked the video at the beginning. I'm linking it to you now. Get over there, get subscribed to Space Tomato if you guys haven't yet. He is probably, if not certainly, the best Star Citizen YouTuber in the space. So, love him. And yeah, poor guy with the house and everything. So hopefully they get that sorted out. I'm going to shoot him a message. Hopefully everything's okay.